Welcome back to the channel, guys. It is me, 8744, and today, guys, we do our Conembol World Cup qualifiers preview for the month of June, guys. And of course, I'm joined with Rankman. So, Rankman, welcome back to the channel, man. How do you feel, man? RJ already qualified.
Yeah, obviously feeling great about that, and obviously in the fashion in which we did it, which I think it's also very, very important because Argentina, honestly, we're always going to qualify to the World Cup, especially with the expanded format. But to do it in such a dominant fashion and against our biggest rivals was huge in the last window. But that was already a long time ago. And now a lot of things have changed, and we have to look at not only how they have adapted, but which other teams are on the race to make it into the US and the other countries in 2026.
Yeah, of course, after we did that the March predictions video and review, Brazil decided to announce their new coach. It was like, yeah, Dorval, you couldn't stay anymore after that disastrous loss. And they brought in Carlo Ancelotti. And speaking of Carlo Ancelotti, he recalled Anthony. And of course, I know me and Rank know how good Anthony's been this year. He's probably one of the most informed players this year. So it's good to see him back. And yeah, I mean, Rank, quick thoughts on Carlo Ancelotti before we get to the fixtures. How do you feel as Argentina? Of course, yeah, of course, I know you'd be. Of course, it kind of feels weird for you, right?
It is a bit weird, yeah, because obviously I don't really want Brazil to do well, but the form that they were in was just absolutely disastrous, and I think that this is a change that they desperately needed. Dorival was clearly not the man, and I think we noticed a long time ago, back in the last Copa America, when he lost in that fashion to Uruguay on penalties, and he didn't even have any say as to what would happen in the penalty shootout. He was left out of the team talk, and you could say that he basically had no management of the dressing room, and he had no tactical awareness. He got exposed by Scaloni in that 4-1 defeat, and I think that a change was definitely needed for Brazil. And we could tell that they probably needed a foreign manager as well, because for Brazil, the local coaches were just not being it. They tried with Diniz earlier, and it also didn't work. And it seems like the school of coaches in Brazil is just very, very outdated. So they had to go with someone from another country, and Carlo Ancelotti, obviously one of the best coaches in the world, I would say, and he's won basically everything that there is to win in club football in Europe, in multiple clubs, in multiple eras. And I think that he's super experienced and someone who can improve Brazil to a new level. But the difference between international and club football is obviously that the resources that you have are limited and you don't really get to choose. And so we'll have to see if Ancelotti can actually improve this Brazil team to a team that can contest for the World Cup next year. Obviously, because that's the objective that they set up to him, and with the players that he's got, because Brazil still have a lot of issues in the midfield, still got issues in the defense, and Ancelotti basically has to sort everything out with the players that he's got. He's already made some changes to the squad, but yeah, we're going to have to see how he does. Big expectations. I think that he's going to improve, but just how much, that is yet to be seen.
Yeah, this could be like Hansi Flick and what is it called? Luis Enrique, where we saw that both these managers were obviously amazing club level, but internationally they didn't quite cut it. So we'll see if our Ancelotti follows the same suit. But of course, we'll have to give him time. We can't be too reactionary yet. So of course we'll have our answer in a few years' time. But yeah, I mean it's already big, man. So let's go ahead and look at the standings, shall we? So when you look at the standings right here, RJ already qualified. Ecuador is still second place, and bro, the gap between first and second is wild, crazy. 8-point gap. Wow, that's wild. Uruguay third, Brazil fifth. Brazil fourth, Paraguay fifth, and sixth Colombia. So dang, pretty much Uruguay, Brazil, Paraguay are all tied to the same points, and then Colombia, and then Venezuela. Colombia has also a huge gap, and yeah, we can see the table starting to form. So before we get into the fixtures, are you surprised at how the stands are on the point separation? Because for me, I'm surprised that there's an 8-point gap. I know RJ. We obviously know RJ is the best in South America. I mean, they won the World Cup for crying loud, so that's obvious. But I didn't think the gap is that big.
Yeah, I think that the gap that Argentina have created with the rest is super, super large. And we can see that Argentina has actually lost more games than Ecuador, for example. We've lost 3 games. We've lost to Uruguay at home, we've lost to Paraguay on the road, and we've also lost to Colombia on the road. But even then, the point gap is just that much larger because we've actually been getting a lot of wins, and that is obviously what counts the most. And I think that the dominance of this Argentina team above everybody else is just that noticeable, and that is why we qualified so early and in such the dominant fashion. But obviously, huge props to Ecuador. Remember that Ecuador has a 3-point deduction, so according to the points that they got, they should be on 26, but they have -3, and that's why they are lower down on the table. We could have seen Ecuador already qualified to the World Cup if it wasn't for that point deduction, and the fact that even then they are still in second place, ahead of the likes of Uruguay, ahead of the likes of Brazil and Colombia. It's crazy. Massive props to Ecuador for that, who obviously have the best defense. Only conceding 5 goals in 14 games is incredible. And yeah, I think that Ecuador are also in great shape. After that, I think that Uruguay, Brazil, Paraguay, and Colombia obviously all very close in terms of the points, but they are still safe from the drop that is the Intercontinental playoffs. And then we have that battle between Venezuela and Colombia. Peru and Chile, little hope. They are not mathematically out of it, but it's looking very, very tough for them if they want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. So we could see some nations qualify for this month. I think Ecuador could qualify for this month. Uruguay, Brazil, Paraguay as well, right? I believe they can also qualify this month too, right?
Yeah, and those are a bit more complicated, I believe, but potentially we could see them if they generate enough of a gap between them and Venezuela.
Yeah, I think Ecuador is the only one that's like kind of locked in this month. Like if they get the amount of points, they should qualify. All right, let's move to the fixtures, shall we? So match day 15, we start with Paraguay versus Uruguay. Oh, sorry. Actually, let's start with Colombia versus Peru. I don't really like the order the Wikipedia presented, but actually, I'll let you decide. Should we go the order the fixtures are laid out, or should we go the order of match numbers?
I think we'll just go with the order of the fixtures, right?
Yeah, actually, let's just do that. It's less confusing. Okay, Paraguay versus Uruguay. Ooh, this is a good one. It's an interesting one. Paraguay, of course, are unbeaten. They haven't lost a match with Gustavo, and this is going to be an interesting one against Uruguay team that are a very good team, of course. But Uruguay tend to struggle on the road, so this is a really difficult one to call. I think I'm gonna say a draw for this one.
Yeah, like you were saying, Paraguay have been amazing ever since they appointed Gustavo Alfaro, potentially the team in the best form up there with Argentina. And their revival has been incredible. They looked like they were not going to qualify to a World Cup once again, and now they're in prime position to make it into 2026, qualify for their first World Cup since 2010, which would be huge for Paraguay. And with a lot of talented players, and a team that works very well together, very defensively cohesive as well, which I think is something that was lacking from Paraguay compared to what we saw at the Copa America. And yeah, playing at home, they've been super, super strong. Uruguay, on the other hand, they've been a bit shaky. They did pick up some points last window, but it wasn't like the best of showing for them. So there's a lot of questions around what Bielsa is doing with the squad and how they actually should approach their game plans, because it seems like Uruguay is just running for no reason. They're pressing super high, but not really getting a lot done with that press. And so it's a tough game to call, like you said. I think a lot is going to depend on how clinical both teams can be on the day, because I don't see too many chances happening in this game with how solid at the back Paraguay have been. But I think that with the form that they're in and playing at home, I think that Paraguay can clinch the victory on this one, especially if Gustavo Alfaro gets the game tactically right against Bielsa.
Actually, you know what? I might actually go with Paraguay to win, since Uruguay is so unpredictable. I don't know what to expect with Uruguay on the road. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Paraguay to win, actually. Well, Ecuador versus Brazil. Now, this is an interesting one. Obviously, Carlo Ancelotti making his debut as a manager. And obviously, we saw in the squad selection, he called up Estevao. And I think he called up Santos as well, and called up Anthony. So, some big players coming back. And Casemiro even got called back, too, which was crazy. Like 2 years, I think he's back. And so, this is an interesting one for Brazil. First game against Ecuador, and we know how good Ecuador are at home. We know Ecuador's defense is outstanding, probably the best defense in South America, the altitude, everything. I think it won't be the perfect start. I think it's gonna be a draw. I just feel like Ecuador, for me, their defense is too good, and I just don't think Brazil will be able to penetrate through it. So I'll say a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat. obviously, like we talked about earlier, Ecuador amazing defensively, the best defense in the continent. Coming off with William Pacho just winning the Champions League as well in the defense. So they obviously have some big pieces there. Sebastián Becasese has done an amazing job taking over what Felix Sanchez was doing before. Both picked up a lot of points. And now coming up against this Brazil team that is coming with some fresh air now that Dorival is gone, and with Carlo Ancelotti, I'm sure that Brazil will be super motivated for this game. But like you said, it's difficult going away to Ecuador. Now, this game is in Guayaquil, so it is not in the altitude. It's in Quito, it would be on the altitude. So that is a factor that actually, in a way, plays in Brazil's favor. But I think that Ecuador have been super comfortable playing at home anyway. Like you were saying, we're going to have basically a coin cost how Brazil are going to be under Ancelotti. I expect them to improve, and they have some really good players. Ecuador are missing some key players. Ener Valencia is not here. He's got a thigh injury, and he's out until late May. And so that is basically the main piece that Ecuador have in the attack. And with that, I don't think Ecuador has enough to break through Brazil. But like you said, Ecuador have just been so good defensively that I think that this game could be a draw.
All right. Next one we got here is Chile versus Argentina. Now, this is a really interesting one to preview because obviously Argentina are already qualified. So Argentina will obviously rotate, I would imagine. Chile, obviously, this is a huge one for them. And of course, we know how much Chile don't like Argentina. So I'm sure Chile will be extremely motivated for this game and everything. So I did hear some reports coming out that a lot of Argentina players have been left out, like a lot of the top players. Is that true?
No, the list came out, and I think it's pretty much what I expected. I was surprised to see a few players from the local league, the Argentine league, be called up. The likes of Kevin Lo Monaco, who is a center back playing for Independiente here in the local league, and obviously Franco Mastan, that everyone is talking about at River Plate, also got called up. But for the most part, I think that the players that Scaloni has selected for this window are aligning pretty much with the squad that I expect for Argentina at the World Cup. And it makes sense because I think that we need to really start preparing the team that is going to play in 2026. And even though Argentina has nothing to play for, these are still competitive games, and we have to take them as competitive games because our opposition is still playing for something. And I think that it's very important that we use these games to prepare as best as we can and, already fill up the squad going into 2026. Obviously, Chile playing at home, they have to win because if they don't win, they are already pretty much guaranteed out of the run for the intercontinental playoffs. So they are playing their last hand here, and I'm sure that they go all out attacking against us in trying to get that victory. But like we were saying, like under Gareca, it seems like Chile are really, really struggling, not really finding their footing. And it's been a horrible campaign for Chile so far, and I don't think that they have enough. And I think that Argentina could win this game away to Chile.
Yeah, I also going to go Argentina to win. I just don't trust Chile. I know Chile are somewhat decent at home, to be fair to them, but I don't know. I mean, Argentina are the World Cup champions, and so even a B team Argentina, I still think is very difficult to beat. So I got Argentina to win. They've got Colombia versus Peru, man. Of course, Peru obviously are trying to give it their all. This is a match that maybe Peru could fancy because I remember the last time I think this happened in the last qualifying cycle. I think Peru actually did manage to beat Colombia away, so maybe Peru can maybe use that as a way to hope because current form is just looking bad. And yeah, Colombia, I think they got this. Colombia should win this.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat now. Colombia is also in horrible form. Colombia hasn't won a game since they beat Chile 4-0 a few windows ago. Because remember that they had that window where they lost 2 games against both Uruguay and Ecuador. And last window, they lost to Brazil away and they drew with Paraguay at home. Obviously, 2 very difficult games, but still, Colombia have only collected 1 point in their last 4 games. So it's been a tough time for Colombia. Obviously, that put them 6th in the qualifiers, 20 points. But Peru are currently in the gutter, 10 points in the bottom. And like you said, with Colombia playing at home, Peru are pretty much required to win as well if they want to have any hope. And they have to repeat that miracle that they did last time around, like you were mentioning. but I just don't see it happening. Like Peru simply got absolutely nothing. They're still relying on the same players as before because that's basically what they got. There's no youth coming in. There's no project in Peru, and it's super sad to see. And I think that if nothing weird happens and if Colombia don't sabotage themselves, because that's what they've been doing lately, Colombia should win this game. I don't expect it to be easy because it seems like Colombia just cannot do anything in the easy way these days, but they should get the victory in this game.
Yeah, they should win this one. And yeah, next we got Venezuela versus Bolivia. Venezuela, man, you got to do this. It's a huge opportunity at home against Bolivia, probably the worst team away from home. And yeah, Venezuela, man, there's no excuses. There's no excuses for this one, and I think they got this right.
Oh yeah, I mean the only problem here is that this is a huge game. This is the biggest game of the window. This is the one that we've been all looking at because we know that Venezuela 15 points in the Intercontinental playoff spot. Meanwhile, Bolivia only 1 point behind. So this is
that's
the
true.
game to watch. And so for Venezuela, it's a huge opportunity. If they want to make the Intercontinental playoffs and be in that opportunity to make their first ever World Cup, they have to win this game. A draw could potentially be enough, but then you're already complicating stuff because we know how good Bolivia is at home and they still have 2 games at home left. And so if you don't use this opportunity to separate yourself from Bolivia, things could get dicey later down the line. So a must-win game for both teams, essentially. We know that Jefferson Soteldo is missing for Venezuela, which is a huge miss. One of their most, a player that can make a difference on the wing for them. But lately, they have not been needing him as much. Venezuela have been in awful form, and they only got that victory last window, a much-needed win against Peru at home with a penalty from Rondon. But it was very much like the form from Venezuela has been awful, and so has the form of Bolivia. They have both been struggling, honestly. And so I think that it's going to be a super tight game. It's going to be very nervy. I expect both teams to be super nervous. And I think that those nerves could play against Venezuela because even though they're playing at home, I feel like they feel the pressure from the crowd to perform. And so I feel like Venezuela I could definitely see a world in which Venezuela crumbles to the pressure of this game, of it being such a huge occasion to potentially make their first ever World Cup. But I think that, like you said, Bolivia is just horrible on the road. They did get a victory on the road against Chile earlier this cycle, so there's potential for them to do it again. I still think that Venezuela should win, but yeah, like you said, it's a huge game, and I think that the pressure will surely be on for both of these teams if they want to make a World Cup. For Bolivia, it would be the first since '94, and for Venezuela, it would be the first ever. So it's a huge occasion for both teams. So it's going to be the game of the week, in my opinion.
Yeah, that game is going to be must watch, man. Must watch. Match day 60, we got Bolivia versus Chile. Let's keep it simple. Bolivia should win this. I mean, Chile, I don't trust Chile, and Bolivia being at home. I could maybe see this one being a draw. I don't think a draw is too far possible, but I don't see Chile winning this. I know Chile actually won this in reverse qualifying. I know Chile won the last cycle, 2022 edition, but I think Chile got worse in the 22, or worse from 2022 to now. So, and I would say Bolivia are probably better now than they were 2022, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we saw that as well with Bolivia actually picking up points on the road, which I didn't really expect. And yeah, Bolivia has improved. Chile has downgraded. I think that a lot of this game is going to depend on what happened on the Venezuela-Bolivia game before, because I don't know how motivated Bolivia will be for this game if they happen to lose to Venezuela. Obviously, this will become a must-win game for Bolivia as well. They have to win all of their games at home anyway, so they already knew that. But I think that playing in the altitude, Bolivia are just superior, and Chile have been downgrading ever since. So I think that, yeah, Bolivia should win. But again, a lot is going to depend on how Bolivia are doing mentally after that game against Venezuela. If they manage to pick up a point or if they happen to lose that game, a lot is going to come down to the mental game, in my opinion.
Next, we got Uruguay versus Venezuela. Now, this is an interesting one because obviously Uruguay, we are expecting them to lose. They may potentially draw. At the Venezuela, of course, we are expecting them to beat Bolivia. So for Venezuela, man, this is gonna be a difficult one for them because you're playing away to Uruguay. Now, I think the last time these two teams played, I think it was ended a draw, right? I think it was a draw, right?
It was a
For
draw
Uruguay.
in Venezuela, yeah. It was a 0-0 draw.
So maybe, do you think Venezuela can hold Uruguay to another draw? I mean, this will be impressive, especially on the road.
There's potential. I think that Venezuela will definitely look for the draw in this one. I don't think that Batista is just going to push all of the players forward trying to get a win. The only way that I can see Venezuela pushing for a win here is if they somehow lose to Bolivia in that first game. But I don't think that will happen. I think that Venezuela will most likely be defensive for this game, and it will come down to Uruguay to break them down. Now, Uruguay, like we were saying, have been in horrible form, and so it's very likely that Uruguay just fail to find the back of the net, and Venezuela can come away from here with a point. I think it's a bit too complicated. Uruguay will definitely dominate in this game. They will create the chances, and I think that all it takes is for one of them to go in for the game to be over. And so I will predict Uruguay to win, but I don't think this game is going to be one-sided whatsoever. I feel like it's going to be very, very tight.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Uruguay to win, but I'm not confident with this. I could see like a 1-0 win or a 2-1 win, and a very close one. I don't think this will be one-sided whatsoever. And next is Argentina versus Colombia, man. The defending World Cup champions against Colombia, and I'm sure Argentina would want to beat Colombia after the manner in which they lost that game, the reverse fixture. I think it was a last-minute winner, right?
Yeah, it was, and there was also some controversy with the officiating. But yeah, so, it was a tight affair right after the Copa America final as well between these two teams.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, this is a difficult one to call because obviously Argentina is still very good. Of course, they'll use their. I would imagine they use their B team, and Colombia, as we said, their form has been really horrible. So maybe Argentina might win this one. Maybe a draw. I don't see Colombia winning this one though. I think I'm gonna say a draw. I'm gonna say a draw for this one.
Okay, that's fair. I think that I don't know if Argentina will use a B team. Like I was telling you, the squad that Argentina has selected is mostly comprised of the players that I expect to be at the next World Cup. And I think that Scaloni just wants to take this game seriously because,
maybe like A-. A- is probably the better term to use. Sorry.
Perhaps. I think that if some players are like in the risk of being injured, they would normally start in a competitive game. But for this game, because we're already qualified, he might rest them or something like that. But I still think that Scaloni will just put the best he's got onto the pitch because, like we were saying, this is preparation for 2026. Colombia is a very, very good team. They are going to be at the World Cup. And I think that since they're playing for something, we need to use these competitive games to try and prepare as best as we can for 2026. And so I expect us to play one of our best teams, if not our best team, and especially playing at home in front of our crowd. I feel like that will motivate the players a lot more to give a good show. And so I think that Argentina is going to win this. I don't know by which margin, but I think that we are better than Colombia. We're playing at home, and Colombia is currently not on the best form. And I think that we can take advantage of that to get the victory in this game.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I might just go Argentina to win just because they're playing at home, and Argentina at home is impeccable. And then we got Brazil versus Paraguay. Now this will be an interesting one. Can Brazil end Gustavo's unbeaten streak with Paraguay? And Brazil, man, they're going to be at home. I'm sure the players are going to be motivated. Carlo Ancelotti is going to be looking in. Of course, we'll see how Brazil do against Ecuador. But for me, I'm going to go with Brazil to win this. I just think that them being at home, Carlo Ancelotti coming, with the players like Anthony, Estevao, Santos, Vinny potentially being good under Ancelotti. I just think Brazil have too much for this Paraguay team, and I know this Paraguay team is very good. Of course, defensively are outstanding, but I just feel like this will be the end for Paraguay. I think their streak comes to an end here.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Obviously, we know that Paraguay actually won the reverse fixture playing in Paraguay. It was a great goal from. What's his name? The guy who played for Inter Miami. I forgot. Diego Gomez.
Yeah. Diego Gomez.
But like you were saying, Brazil are playing at home this time, and we know how strong Brazil are at home, even though in this cycle they have not looked as strong. Obviously, they dropped that game to Argentina. They dropped points to other teams. But I feel like the air is different here. The sensations are different now that Ancelotti is here. They have all this offensive pressure that they can put up against Paraguay. I feel like every game that has been Paraguay on the road, Gustavo Alfaro has just set up in a defensive shape, and it's been super hard for other teams to break down. And I feel like it won't be easy for Brazil to break down Paraguay in this game. I'm sure that they will get frustrated at the way that Paraguay defend, because they are super ruthless and relentless. And it's going to be a difficult game for Brazil, but I see them breaking through eventually and winning this game and breaking that streak that Gustavo Alfaro has unbeaten as manager of Paraguay. And I think that this could be like the big moment for Ancelotti, like to get this victory and prove that he is on the level of the other Conembol coaches and that he can actually improve this Brazil team. Because I think that most of the issues that Brazil have had, even though there are footballing problems with Brazil, like in the midfield and stuff, most of it comes down to the mentality, because we've seen how their attacking players perform for their clubs, and how they perform from Brazil is very difficult, very different. And I think that comes down to mentality. And I think that with Ancelotti, the mentality can shift. And I believe that they have enough to beat Paraguay in this game.
Yeah, and then the final game we got here is Peru versus Ecuador. Now, the problem with Ecuador is that they're basically good defensively, but they don't score a lot of goals. And this is a game like, let's be real, Ecuador should win, but I don't know, man, because Peru, as bad as Peru are, I feel like at home Peru is actually somewhat decent. I mean, we saw them beat Uruguay at home, you know, and we saw Peru got draws here. So I feel like I just have a feeling it's gonna end in a draw. I just have this feeling. I guess I can see like a 0-0, like a 1-1. I just don't trust Ecuador's offense that much, you know.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. Obviously, another must-win game for Peru. That basically, if they don't win this and they didn't get a win in the previous one, they are already eliminated from World Cup contention. And so, playing at home, I feel like they will just put all they had on the pitch. I don't think it's enough, because Peru are not great offensively, and they are going up against the best defense in the continent. So I think it's very, very difficult for Peru to actually win this game. Like you were saying, Peru are actually a bit more complicated to play against when they are in Lima, and Ecuador are not really great offensively either. And so I could definitely see a situation where this is a draw. If any of the teams are going to win, I think that it's more likely that Ecuador gets the win.
Obviously.
Set piece goal or whatever, or just breaking through the lines of Peru. But I think it's very likely that this game ends in a draw, which would be really bad for Peru. It would pretty much eliminate them. And Ecuador, they are already on their way to qualify anyway, and so they wouldn't really mind the draw. But yeah, it would definitely kill any hopes that Peru have of making the World Cup.
Yeah, so there you have it, man. That is the Conembol World Cup qualifiers preview and predictions for the June month. Of course, check out Rank's channel as well. Conembol expert. He covers a lot of Conembol videos on his channel. I think he did the most recent video. I think it was Argentina League, and how Argentina League is very complicated. So check out that. That was a very interesting video. So of course, check out his video, and of course, guys, like and subscribe as well to my channel as well. And we'll be back here again for the review. So Rank, you'll be there for the review, right?
Yes, I'll be here.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get him back here for the review section. But yeah, anyways, hope you guys did enjoy. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.